What happens when a homeless man walks into the boardroom of a major corporation? He lays down documents that could end careers in seconds. What happened next left the most powerful man in the city speechless. Isaiah Brooks didn't wake up. He was yanked back into consciousness by the fast-tapping claws of a stray dog skipping down cracked pavement. That familiar rhythm wasn't music. It was the street reminding him, like a rude uncle at a family funeral, that he was still alive. His pillow, a balled-up army jacket from his National Guard days, now stiff with years of sidewalk grime. His blanket, a half-torn tarp he'd snatched from behind a liquor store 2 winters ago, and pressing into his side like a reminder he couldn't shake. A bulging bag of aluminum cans he'd wrestled away from another homeless man the night before. That one had a blade. Isaiah had quicker hands. Underneath all that, beneath the city soot, under the aches from sleeping in positions no spine was built for, there was something heavier, something that settled deep beneath his ribs and refused to leave. The weight of hunger, sure, but worse, memory, and the echo of every time someone told him, subtly, bluntly, politely, or with cruelty, "Your place is here, on the curb, out of the way." Years ago, his name had been on an office door. Dr. Isaiah Brooks, Associate Professor, Department of Literature. The man had taught Baldwin, Hughes, Ellison, with a voice that could crack the silence of disinterested students. He wore brown corduroy jackets and corrected grammar in rap lyrics for fun. But the world don't care for degrees when your insurance denies coverage for an infection that nearly cost you your leg. And it sure don't wait for you to grieve when your wife dies 3 weeks later from an asthma attack in an underfunded clinic that ran out of oxygen. So here he was, 37 years old, though the mirror told a different story, walking slow down Berkeley Avenue, a high-end stretch of boutiques, patisseries, and people who paid more for coffee than he made in a week back when he had a week to count. He wasn't walking slow because he was tired. He was walking like a man who'd seen too much and trusted too little, eyes scanning trash bins like they were treasure chests, not for handouts, not for pity. He was looking for opportunity, a signal, a scrap of hope that maybe, just maybe, getting out of bed this morning meant something. And then he saw it, wedged gently between a flattened sushi box and an empty bottle of Grey Goose, glinting like it didn't belong in the land of leftovers. A wallet. Real leather. Software worn but cared for. Not some clearance rack thing from Walmart. Isaiah glanced down the street. Empty. No cameras. No suits rushing back in a panic. Just silence and that wallet, staring up at him like it knew what it was asking. He picked it up, heavy, opened it. Bills, clean, flat, stacked like they had never been folded in desperation. A platinum bank card, an ID. Jonathan Howell Reeves. The picture showed a man with the face of inherited power. White, crisp haircut, expensive smirk. That chin was held up like the weight of the world was someone else's job. Isaiah's throat dried. His stomach growled like it was ready to vote against integrity. This wallet? This was a hotel room. 2 nights, maybe 3. Fresh socks. A real dinner with hot meat and no wrappers. A shave. A human day. He closed the wallet, real slow, slipped it in his coat, took a long breath that hurt. "You really are a damn fool," he muttered, not bothering to whisper. "Welcome back to the club, Doctor." Brooks, president of the Naive Society for Morally Bankrupt Men. The address on the bank card wasn't far. 15 minutes later, Isaiah walked into a lobby that looked like the inside of a stock portfolio. Marble floors, chrome elevators, receptionists with voices like scented candles. Every corner smelled like money doing yoga. He hadn't even stepped past the second tile before a guard spotted him. White, square-jawed, built like a former linebacker who didn't quite make it but never let go. "Hey," the guard barked, walking fast. "This ain't a shelter, my guy. We've got customers in here." Isaiah didn't flinch, didn't raise his voice. "I'm not panhandling. I found a wallet." He raised his hand. The guard squinted. "You found it, huh? Like you found those sneakers last month outside Nordstrom?" "This is different." "You folks always say that." The heat rushed to Isaiah's face, not from shame, from restraint. He was seconds from saying something that would earn him a baton across the ribs and a mugshot in someone's phone gallery. Then the front doors whooshed open. Tall, silver hair, coat that cost more than Isaiah's last car. Same face from the driver's license. Jonathan Reeves. He stopped mid-stride, locked eyes with Isaiah, saw the wallet. "That's mine," he said quietly. The guard tensed. "You sure? I can call the cops." "I'm sure," Reeves said firmly. He took the wallet, opened it, looked inside, then he paused. Something inside that wallet struck him like a fist in the gut. Seconds passed, then another. He looked up, his voice cracked. Where did you find it?" "Next to a dumpster. Decided to bring it back." Jonathan looked down again, then to the side. Somewhere deep behind those polished eyes, something shifted. "Wait here," he said. Minutes later, a black Tesla purred up to the curb like it had a mission. "Get in," Reeves said. "Excuse me? You gave me back more than a wallet. Please, get in." Isaiah looked at the guard, who now stood stiff like he'd swallowed an apology but didn't know how to say it. Isaiah got in. The Tesla was quiet, not like the street, not like his old Ford that shook if you touched the brake too hard. Jonathan didn't speak. The driver didn't look back. The city passed by like a commercial. Then the car turned. Skyscraper, glass walls, giant gold letters, RIVMED Technologies. Isaiah had seen this place on the news. Medical startups, millions in funding. A company that helped invent a vaccine, then invested in AI diagnostics. The type of company that never returned calls from people like him. In the lobby, silence turned to tension. He felt every stare. From heels to handbags, the room reeked of, "You don't belong here." "Is he here for maintenance?" someone whispered. "He's my guest," Jonathan snapped. Elevator, 31st floor, the top. Jonathan didn't smile, didn't explain. Just let him into a glass room that felt like it could see the entire city. A boardroom full of men and women. Suits, pearls, watch faces that cost rent. They paused mid-conversation, mid-judgment. "This is Isaiah Brooks," Jonathan said. "He found my wallet and returned it. I think you should hear what he has to say." Isaiah stood still. The silence dared him. "I ain't got a speech," he said plainly. "Didn't come here to impress you. Just thought it was right to return something that wasn't mine." A man with a voice like dry toast chuckled. "We appreciate honesty, but—" Isaiah cut him off. "Let me guess. You appreciate it best in a three-piece suit, right? Honesty's cute when it comes with cologne and eye contact training?" No one answered. Isaiah turned slightly, met every gaze. "I know your type. You build committees about fairness while firing folks for cultural fit. You say diversity matters, but your boardroom looks like a snowstorm. You ask why we don't trust the system? Because this," he pointed to the room, "this is the system." No one moved, not even Jonathan. "I didn't bring your wallet to be noble," Isaiah said. "I brought it because I still believe right is right, even if right don't pay." He took a breath. "I don't want your sympathy. Don't need your praise. Just remember, sometimes the man you ignore at the dumpster is the only honest one in the room." He turned to leave. Jonathan didn't stop him. Neither did anyone else. As Isaiah stepped back into the elevator, the city stretched out below him. Still cold, still indifferent. But for the first time in years, he didn't feel small. What happened next changed everything. You won't want to miss how this story unfolds. 2 days later, Isaiah Brooks was perched on a chipped wooden bench at the bus stop, holding a steaming hot coffee in a stained paper cup. Its last sip still warm from who knows how many hands before his. The scent of stale cream and scorched beans rode the air, while uptown suits and high heels passed by in a blur of recognition and denial, glancing sideways as though he might infect them with something beyond just street smell. Their eyes said it all without words. You were their guest for a minute, sure, but now, just be quiet and invisible. He was guest royalty one moment inside those glass elevators, and now he was just another black face to avoid. He didn't care. He'd learned to decode that look, the word unease swimming in white eyes like a neon sign, especially when you were too articulate, too honest, too real, too free. And that kind of freedom doesn't come with a price tag. It carries a target on your back. His phone buzzed. It was the old beat-up model he'd salvaged from a charity giveaway at the shelter. Cracked screen and faulty speaker included. The display flashed, unknown caller. He pressed accept without hesitation. "Mr. Brooks?" A calm, even voice asked. This is Jonathan Reeves. Do you have plans for tomorrow morning? Isaiah snorted, nearly spilling coffee from the heat. Not unless the garbage dumpster around the corner's hosting a charity brunch. Jonathan Reeves paused, polite but direct. In that case, meet me at RVMED tomorrow. Main entrance, no explanations. Just come to the 17th floor. Click. The line went dead. He sat up more rigidly, staring at the lid of his cup like he'd never seen it before. Maybe the universe had a plan bigger than him shuffling for change on the pavement. The next morning, Isaiah approached RivMed's lobby, with his head held even tighter than his untied shoelaces. The same security guard from the bank stared at him like a kid who'd realized Santa wasn't real, and he hadn't even passed the metal detector yet. Another guard reached for his radio. Isaiah paused in the middle of the check-in desk glare and breathed steady and unshaken, because he already knew this call-up wasn't just symbolic, it was a challenge. He got to the elevator. 17th floor. A blonde woman, mid-50s, sharp hair, sharper jawline, greeted him with the kind of look that said he probably didn't know how to make coffee properly, or start a PowerPoint, or fit into her world. "You're here because someone invited you?" she asked quietly, her voice implying that guest lists didn't apply to people who looked like Isaiah. "Yes, the president invited me." Isaiah paused for effect, then added, "He calls me personally when dealing with," and I quote, "systemic rot." The woman inhaled sharply, then nodded and waved him inside. Jonathan's office smelled like fresh cedar floors and freshly minted decisions. He stood tall by the window, arms folded, his back to Isaiah, surveying the city like he owned the damn skyline. "Isaiah," he began, turning with measured calm, "I've thought about what you said. No, I didn't just think. I dug into it." He slid a thick folder across the walnut table. Inside were internal complaints, HR tickets, emails, all citing lack of cultural fit. Most came from people of color, and most had no follow-up. No explanation, no recourse. Just closed files, dust, and silence. Isaiah looked at the folder. "Every company does this," he said, soft but sharp. "You just haven't noticed because it didn't affect you." Jonathan met his eyes. "Well, now it will." He motioned to a seat. "I want you to be our internal equality ombudsman," he exhaled. "Terrible title, I know, but you will have access to everyone, every staff level, and because nobody expects your kind in suits at this table, people will speak the truth when you're near. They won't speak it in annual reports." Isaiah sat. The silence between them was thick. He cracked a dry smile, the kind earned by pain and practice. "So what? You want me to be your little Negro in a paneled room?" Jonathan didn't flinch. "I want you to be someone who tells the truth where we've buried it." The first week felt like social research in corporate housing. Isaiah put on a navy suit that still hung loose in the shoulders, a tie he hadn't mastered, and walked past cubicles lined up in sterile precision. This was his stage. Every step, from the coffee station to the elevators to the supply closet, felt like an act of resistance. He saw the shifts immediately. White women glared at him, protectively guarding their lattes. Male managers saluted their papers like they were fragile trophies. None asked for his badge number. None offered help. Yet all registered every inch of him walking by. "Hey, you at tea?" a manager called, not even bothering to look up. "Nope," Isaiah said. "I'm the common sense division." His voice carried confidence they still couldn't catalog. Over the next few days, HR meetings became trenches. Confidential rooms where people, real people, opened up. And he listened like they were precious echoes in an empty room. They fired me for having an unpleasant tone. Meanwhile, a white coworker called a client an old jerk and got promoted. A 28-year-old marketing coordinator. "Our manager told us black employees need to smile more on Zoom. Just wider, because we scare the clients." Tech support specialist. "They asked me to bring coffee 3 times this week. I'm an analyst. I haven't touched an espresso machine since college." "An MBA graduate." Isaiah typed each word carefully, professional, unfiltered. "I hear you," he said over and over. "And I'm here." 1 week later, Isaiah submitted his first report to the board. It was not polished, no business jargon, no marketing fluff. It said, "We have a problem, not with numbers, with souls." He sent it and waited. The answer didn't come from the board. It came from Charles Langston, vice president of HR. Isaiah was summoned. Charles's office looked like it belonged in a mansion, not a suit factory. Dark wood, heavy drapes, dark ego. He closed the door behind him, set Isaiah's report in front of him. This isn't a report, Mr. Brooks, it's propaganda. We're not marching for civil rights here. We're a corporation. And you're some passion project for Jonathan Reeves. Isaiah leaned forward, calm, unapologetic. Interesting, he said. So honesty, when it's inconvenient, is just a hobby. I wonder how long your indifference will last when everyone starts demanding attention. Charles narrowed his eyes. I'm asking you to tone it down. We're professionals here, and you are from the street. Isaiah felt that old ache, the one that said he didn't belong, but he also felt steel in his chest. Right, he said, voice low. That street taught me how to tell the ones who smile in your face and stab you in the back. You're one of them. Charles rose rigid. Are you threatening me? Isaiah met him evenly. This is reflection. The next morning, dressed sharp but still carrying the weight of expectation and fatigue, Isaiah entered the boardroom, armed with everything, hard copies of complaints, HR logs, screenshots, transcripts. He'd prepared for a fight, but he wasn't prepared for what happened next. The former bank guard walked in behind him, same guy who grabbed him at the door months ago. Now he looked nervous, uncertain. Then came the former administrative assistant, who was fired after defending Isaiah's right to be in that lobby, and her demeanor carried the calm of righteous conviction. In a place built on fear and silence, truth had arrived. This is the climax you've waited for. It's all lined up right here. Stay and watch Isaiah bring them to their knees. With the same calm, relentless determination that only someone who's felt too much truth could carry, Isaiah Brooks stepped into the boardroom. His expression was unreadable, like one who had stared down the basement of raw reality too long to flinch. Under his arm was a slim black folder, nothing fancy, not leather, not custom-made, just a battered stack of papers with a dog-eared corner that spoke of use and wear. Inside were documents so damning they could dismantle careers in this room, maybe even all of them. At the center of that polished oak table sat Jonathan Reeves. His posture was straight, his demeanor even, but his eyes betrayed everything. Those eyes were asking Isaiah a question that didn't need saying, "Are you truly ready for this?" Isaiah was. He had to be. To Jonathan's right sat Charles Langston, vice president of HR. White, confident, pen freshly inked, representing the kind of man who shapes rules because he believes they exist for him, not against him. But today the rules wouldn't matter. Jonathan clicked his fingers softly, drawing the tension upward. All right, he said evenly, but loud enough to command attention. Mr. Brooks is here to present his findings from the internal equality audit. He paused, letting that sink in. Isaiah placed the folder on the table, opened it with steady hands, and began to speak, each word measured but sharp enough to slice through pretense. Over the past 3 weeks, I've conducted 46 interviews with employees, 29 anonymous, 17 in person. Of those, 39 reported clear evidence of racial bias, covert pressure, or overt discrimination. 22 of those complaints point directly to policies implemented under your leadership, Charles. At the mention of his name, Charles's face twitched, an involuntary reaction, like being named at a wake. Isaiah pressed on. These aren't trivial issues. This is exhaustion. Exhaustion from a system where skin color outweighs competence, where poor communication style is code for too black to sound credible. He fanned out several pages, sliding them along the table. Printed emails, HR ticket notes, transcripts bearing the breath of every hurt person who dared to speak up. Here, Isaiah said, is an email forwarding a request for an internal grievance, shut down because the situation hasn't escalated. Over there, he pointed, is a transcript of a Brooklyn intern told, "Smile more, you're scaring the clients." And here, he added with a quiet intensity, a negative performance review slapped onto a fired employee immediately after they complained about you, Charles. The room went silent, stifled, starved silence. Not a cough broke it. Isaiah flipped to another sheet. Need proof? Here. He extended a small printed note. This, a letter from Jim Walker, the same security guy who tried to remove me from the bank. The paper laid flat like cold truth. He wrote, I just knew he was a thief, looked like a criminal. That's what our training told us. Jungled up in a Bennett and Associates workshop, your department, Charles. At that, Jonathan closed his eyes slowly. When he opened them again, they were sharp, deliberate. He said one word, Charles. Charles sprang up, his face pale. He raised his arms defensively. You can't, in a boardroom. This man, this vagrant, he came here from the street and you want to. Jonathan's voice cut through him. He came here with truth. You came with excuses. He turned to Isaiah. You now have the floor. You have freedom to speak. What do you want to do next? Isaiah straightened, walking around the table toward the center, commanding airspace with each step. I want a system that works, a real system, one where people can speak without fear, where speaking truth doesn't risk your job, where a black employee doesn't have to be 2 times better just to get half the respect. He paused for effect, scanning every face. I want the position of Director of Ethics. I want an independent department outside HR, reporting directly to this board, with its own resources, its own investigators, and yes, its own power. I want protection from people like him. He flicked his gaze at Charles. The silence hit again. Heavy. Charles erupted. This isn't democracy. We can't just appoint. Jonathan rose, cutting him off smoothly yet firmly. Someone who speaks truth? His tone was rhetorical. Maybe for the first time in a decade, it's time to try. The CEO adjusted his stance. He dropped his voice, but every syllable carried steel. You're fired, Charles. Effective immediately. Charles's mouth hung open. He snapped it shut, wiped his face, and stormed out. His footsteps pounded like a slap. 1 week later, a new plaque graced RIVMED's marble lobby. Department of Equality and Internal Investigations. Director, Isaiah Brooks. It glinted under LED lights, a small but burning symbol that something real had changed. Isaiah's first calls were to the very people who had helped him speak truth. The administrative assistant who got fired simply for defending his right to be heard, and the tech support rep who said too much and saw the HR door. They entered the new office, no fanfare, just clean desk, 2 chairs, walls waiting for fresh ideas. He looked at them and said, quietly but firmly, this isn't revenge. This is just restoring order in a house abandoned by respect. In true poetic irony, a month passed. One afternoon, the very same bank security guard who once blocked his way walked into this office, uniform crisp, a resume trembling in his hand. The guard looked down at the floor. My son's sick. I lost my home. I was wrong. Isaiah nodded, studying the man. No knee-jerk forgiveness, no triumph, just measured humanity. He took the resume and said, we'll talk. Because real power isn't about revenge, it's about refusing to become what you loathe. Still, at night, after the lights went out and the city hum turned muted, Isaiah would return to his office in that glass tower overlooking a city that once had forgotten him. He'd sit at his desk with the skyscrapers stretching below, and beside him hung the old army jacket, the one that had been his pillow, his shield, his companion in darkness. He ran his hand over the faded green canvas. It wasn't a relic of pain. It wasn't nostalgia. It was a choice, a reminder. You can either crawl back into the mud or build a staircase from it. Today, if someone walks into RivMed and sees a confident black man in a tailored suit delivering reports to the board, they won't think homeless drifter. They'll think system. They'll see a leader, not a charity case. Isaiah Brooks didn't just survive the system. He became the mirror that showed it its reflection, unflinching, relentless, and undeniably human.